NJ.com and the Heldridge Hotel. Welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insider Brian Fonseca. Let's start shopping.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for breaking women's college basketball news. How about that? We just sharpened our elbows and just charged into that space. Get out of my way, Talia. Not taking this. Boom. Knock it. Right there. Tough space, too. I tell you what. They don't mess around in the breaking women's college. I didn't know this. Didn't know a lot of things. Learning here. Learning on the job. But we're talking about Gary Redus II, new Rutgers women's basketball coach. Literally became official 23 minutes ago. We were recording this live. It happened quickly. We know that, Brian. Why don't we start with the very basic thing here? And we're going to talk about the men's win, all that other stuff later in the podcast. But this is fresh. We're going to start here. Who is Gary Redus II?
Gary Redus II is the fourth full-time head women's basketball coach at Rutgers. As you said, it came together in a quick search, and we'll talk about that down the line. Gary Redus is going to be a first-time head coach at Rutgers, but has developed a reputation as an elite recruiter at LSU under Kim Mulkey. Now, how much of that is working at an elite program for a Hall of Fame coach with a lot of resources, and how much of that is Gary Redus being a really good recruiter with ties to a prominent agency in Clutch Sports, which is, most famous representing LeBron James. We shall see when he gets to Rutgers with a smaller profile and less NIL money than LSU. But at LSU, he helped collect multiple top 5 classes, was on the staff for multiple elite teams. And prior to coming to LSU, he was an assistant at Vanderbilt, at SMU, and at Delta State. And he also was a good recruiter at those stops as well. He is a former college basketball player himself. He played at South Alabama for 2 years, and he is the son of a Major League Baseball player. His father, Gary Redus, the first, obviously, played at the Reds, the Phillies, the White Sox, the Pirates, and the Rangers. Hit .252 with 90 home runs as an outfielder out of Alabama. So a lot of interesting things about Gary Redus as he makes the trek up to the north for the first time. Alabama guy, coached in the South his entire career. Now he's coming up to the Northeast.
Right. Yes. And another LSU, obviously tied to this becoming LSU of the North here. We already knew that. William Tate, Kelly Zinn, now Gary Redus II. And it certainly seems like this was the guy from the beginning. I mean, when you do a search and it only takes a week, I know they talked to other candidates. They did not interview any other candidates, or at least not in a meaningful way. Certainly conversations were had. I know they were turned down by a couple of people. Fairfield coach, Columbia coach didn't want to get involved, but this was not an extensive search. It's kind of funny given what we have gone through with searches, Brian, is like, I just assume these things are supposed to take 6 months now at this point, but no, you can hire someone in a week. And that's what Kelly Zinn did.
You think Greg Schiano and the Board of Governors are, after the last 12 months, are sitting back like, is that allowed? Are you allowed to hire someone a week after you fired that person?
There are people on that campus who aren't aware they fired Cookies Washington yet. They're like, wait a minute, don't we have a women's basketball coach? Who is this guy?
Correct. I guess the speed of this speaks to something we had heard, when the firing happened, that Kelly Zinn already had a person in mind. And clearly, if you hire someone within a week of firing the last person, that is the case. I'm a bit surprised the search went this quickly. I can't imagine Gary Redus had 1,000 suitors that you had to get in there right now before the season is even over and hire him. And think that speaks to me that this is the person they wanted. And, unless they were, they did hit the home run and they did get Carly Thibault-Dodonis from Fairfield or any other really high-end targets, Kim Barnes-Arico from Michigan or anything like that this was going to be the direction they're going in. And I guess in the era of the transfer portal and right now, the next month is where a lot of these decisions are made. You want to get someone in place as fast as possible. That makes sense. But I think, again, I was just a bit surprised that they didn't test the market out a little bit harder than before landing at this conclusion.
Yeah, and let's start with the proof. Let's start with what the concept is here before I give you my sort of half-baked quick opinion on the hire. Obviously, they want to hire someone cheap on the way up. They want to put their money toward player salaries. I think this is what we're seeing here. They think that Gary Redus II, with his connections with his agency, with his recruiting ties, is going to be able to recruit well here. Like that's clearly what the theory of this case is, right? Like if we offer, I don't know what it's going to be, but $1.5 million in women's basketball NIL, if we have someone who can recruit at a high level, someone who's connected to the agency that moves players better than anybody. I mean, in Clutch Sports, that this can turn around quickly. Right, you agree that this is what they're aiming for?
Yes, and it does seem like there's some sort of trend in college hoops specifically that you spend less on a coach and more on players, because good players can salvage a mediocre coach much better than a good coach can salvage a mediocre players, right? That's players win games. So I understand that philosophy, and that's not to call Gary Redus a mediocre coach before he even arrives here and coaches a game, to be clear, but the guy has never been a head coach a day in his life, so there is inherent risk with that decision. Now, I think when you're a place like Rutgers where you're not going to blow any other team out of the water as far as your NIL resources, and you're climbing out of the bottom of the best or the second best conference in the sport, I think it's a strategy that's worthwhile, and it's a test case, right? Because women's basketball is a revenue sport. Rutgers basketball is a program with history at the school. Women's basketball is not a sport that, if you were 1-17 at Rutgers, is going to cause a lot of consternation. People didn't really pay attention to how bad the Coquise Washington era was until the very end, when we were speculating if she would get fired or not, right? Other than that, people were kind of shrugging their shoulders. So this is a low risk, high reward hire. If the gamble works out and he recruits a ton of really good players and they are better than expected, and again, the bar is virtually on the floor, then it's success. And again, you don't break the bank in doing so. And if it doesn't work out, again, you don't break the bank in doing so. And we're saying this without, again, as you said, we don't know the terms. We could be shocked, but we're probably going to get roughly the same amount of money as Coquise Washington made. She was set to make 25 next year. But anyway, the point is, if it doesn't work out, you gave it a shot. You try to be innovative, and in a few years from now, you try again with maybe a more established person, and with the program, you would hope at a slightly higher floor with some proof of concept for someone more experienced. So I could see this being a high upside hire. I see the vision, I guess is my point.
Right. I'm going to take the other side of it a little bit here. And this is talking to people that I know in this space. And again, we're not in it. We don't spend a lot of time with women's basketball. We have to acknowledge that up front. I did not know who Gary Redus was a week and a half ago. Like, I'm just going to be honest with that. I think people are surprised because of the lack of experience, because, as good a recruiter as he might be, I mean, Kim Mulkey at LSU did not need someone to come here and help her get players, really. I mean, she was doing that 20 years before Gary Redus got into the business. And this is the big thing I've heard, and the Big Ten is just not a training wheels conference for coaches. And I think that's one thing I would be a little concerned about. I'm very interested to see his staff, but like if the men's program made this hire, like I'm trying to think of a way to put it. Like if the men's program hired the third assistant on Tom Izzo's staff with zero head coaching experience, we would be flipping out, I think, right? Like we wouldn't be talking about proof of concept. We'd be like, this guy's never coached a game in his life. And I think the women's basketball, the Big Ten is just as tough for that. And I think what people I talk to are saying why they're surprised is A, you didn't have to move this quickly. There's no hurry. And B, the other part of it is that there were a lot of candidates out there, who would have jumped at this job given the terms, given the Big Ten tie, given the NIL spend, who weren't contacted at all. Tammy Reese was not contacted. I know that's out there that she was part of this search. From all of my understanding, she was not part of the search. Villanova's coach, who played for the Big Ten title, was not contacted. Big East Championship was not contacted. There are a lot of names out there. So there were proven people who have done this at a level. Now you're asking a lot from Gary Redus, and you hope he can handle this job, because take the off the court stuff too. I mean, for like it's not just coaching against Maryland and these proven programs and Kim Barnes, Arico, and all these established coaches. You have to be able to run a program too, and we've seen what happens when inexperienced people get in these jobs. Like the one I think about is Fred Hill Jr. Like the people who come in these jobs and they are, you think they're going to be the hot assistants and you think they're going to do well, and the stuff around coaching the basketball team overwhelms them, and you hope that's not the case here. Obviously, this they knew Gary Redus, like Tate and Zinn knew him, and so there's that element of it. They have seen him, they have a better feel for this. Clearly, they thought all this through, but there is risk involved in this.
A lot to go off there. First of all, the Fred Hill Jr. comparison is more apt, even more than you could maybe even realize. Like, the guy has a baseball connection. Fred Hill's father was obviously a legendary coach here in baseball. This guy's dad is a professional player for a dozen years. So there's that aspect of it. The Big Ten, this is not a complete showing of how powerful the conference is, but I don't know if you caught the women's basketball championship game last night in the tournament. Number 9 Iowa lost by 51 points. 51 points to UCLA. The number 1 team in the Big Ten beat the number 2 team in the Big Ten by 51 points in the championship game. That is insane.
I did not see that. That's incredible.
That's UCLA is by far the best team in the conference this year. But to your point, there's Iowa, there's Maryland, Indiana has made a deep run in the tournament recently.
USC.
USC, right? They have elite players. They're a program that gets a ton of great players. There's a lot of programs that are really, really, really good that makes the Big Ten one of, if not the best conference in the country. I'm trying to remember everything that you went through there. I should have taken notes because I had a bunch of.
I talked too much.
No. I think you made a lot of great points.
Yeah. And these are programs they have. Remember, before we even talk about UCLA, and you got to, and Michigan, you got to step over. You got to get Indiana's and the Purdue's and these teams that have been wiping the court with you. I mean, it's not. You're not. Yeah. And sure, that clearly they're throwing a dart. They think this is the quickest path to it. Right.
The Tammy Reese thing. So the reporting is, so she signed a 10-year contract in 22-23. Pat Hobbs might have been moonlighting as the Rhode Island.
That's a good one. Except she's good. That's the only difference. The only difference between that contract and the one Pat Hobbs came out.
Well, the difference is that she had won a conference championship and then she had kind of stabled out. And this bet actually worked out because she hit her peak right now instead of floundering a bit. Anyway, enough. That's our episodical attack on Pat Hobbs. I'm ready to move on. But so there's 6 years left on her deal. It expires in 2032, and she has, for every year left on her contract, it is $100,000 on her buyout.
Right.
So that'll make her buyout $600,000.
Okay.
I don't know if that impacted things at all. I think from what I've heard and what from you've heard, Tammy Reese would essentially walk down the New Jersey Turnpike and take this job if it was offered to her. So it was not for a lack of interest on her part. Again, I don't know if what the buyout parameters, what that discussion would even be, but it sounds like from your reporting and what you've heard, that wasn't even part of the discussion. It was just, they didn't even reach out to.
Yeah, either they knew about it and decided not to, or there's another factor, but she was not considered. So, and to be fair, like if that's the case, like I can understand that. If you had to give her like $1.2 million to come, and you had to pay off the buyout, okay. Like you want to, all right. You've made a decision. You're going to pay less for your head coach and more for your players. Again, it's 2026. I'm okay with that part of it.
Yes, and you're essentially paying 2 years' salary for the first year of Tammy Reese because $600,000 is slightly under what you're paying Coquise, right? So that makes sense. Now the other thing to think about, and there's two ways to look about this, right? This is really a half glass, or I should say, a perspective thing I'm going to bring up. But President Tate and the LSU influence is very real because he brought Kelly Zinn as the AD. He's now hired an LSU assistant as the head women's basketball coach, and he was watching an LSU basketball game. I believe it was at North Carolina earlier this year. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but he was at one of these games in person early in the off season, and everyone kind of joked around like, "Oh, he's scouting Kim Mulkey to bring her to Piscataway." Clearly, I mean, maybe he was there scouting Gary Redus and trying to talk to him about that. My point is, and also in the administrative side, a side that we don't really cover as an athletics podcast, but he brought over 2 or 3 prominent people in prominent positions, right? Like the LSU North, LSUification of Rutgers is legit. and it's increasingly becoming a reality. I don't know. I mean, people could see that as good, right? LSU is clearly a successful school in athletics. People would love for Rutgers to be LSU in sports in practically across the department. But I do wonder, it's good to have the president care and be involved in sports, right? Compared to what Rob Barchi was a decade ago, this is a breath of fresh air. But does it get to a point where it's a little too much, where he is a little too involved and has too heavy of a say? And again, I don't know how much he put his thumb on the scale in the search. I'm not implying that he stormed in there and said, we got to hire this guy. I don't want to hear about anything else, because I don't think that's the case. But clearly he had some influence on this.
Yeah, this is the other side of it. Totally. Yeah.
How much of influence is too much influence from the president in the athletics department is what I wonder. And I think that's something to watch going forward.
Who do I owe the Jerry Jones comparison to? Who made that one first on Discord? Was it Cratch?
Former Rutgers Rant host James Cratch made
Cratch, yes, the Jerry Jones. We've got Jerry Jones as university president. I love it because that's hilarious. I don't know if it's true or not, but clearly involved. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he's been more involved than any president ever so far. I think it's pretty clear. And sitting courtside, the governor is there. This is like, look, and I think most university presidents would tell you now they spend an inordinate amount of time on athletics. I don't think for William Tate, it is a burden. He's at the baseball game. He's at, this is what he wants to be doing. And I don't think it's fair to say it's a bad thing. I think at this point it's a good thing, definitely, for that question. Whether or not I can't imagine. I would hope. I don't know what happened here. I would hope that he's not telling or micromanaging Kelly Zinn's decisions on this stuff. I get the sense they're lockstep in this. Like, there's no evidence to suggest that this was like, you must hire Gary Redus. Like, I think she wanted to make this hire too. I don't think there's any question.
Right. I think we've heard that she was as much, if not more, wanting to hire Gary Redus than William Tate. And I want to be clear here, because I could already hear the bells in the background, the message boards. NJ.com is already stirring the pot and I am not implying that it's a bad thing he's involved. I think it's great how involved he is, and I think it's great for the school that you have a president that wants to win at athletics. I'm saying it's a great thing. I'm just saying the trend line of the involvement is at the very least stable, at possibly going up. And I wonder, this is a low leverage situation, obviously. Athletic director was high leverage. This is low leverage. But at some point in his tenure, barring a shock, they will have to replace the men's basketball coach. And if he's here long enough, they will replace the football coach, because Greg Schiano will not live forever. I just wonder, when it gets to those situations, how much his involvement is. And ultimately, to his point, all that matters is that you win, right? So if he's involved and he gets a great coach and they win, I might say all good. I am just kind of throwing that thought out there for people to keep their eye on and see, how much President Wynn, how badly he wants to win, and how much influence he has on the attempt at winning.
Yes, and I'm sure he will be there. We do not know when the press conference is. I think it's clear. I mean, Kelly Zinn's going to be flying to Chicago with you here in 24 hours, I think.
She's not going to be flying with me. I will not be on the team charter. I imagine she'll be on the team charter.
She'll be sitting in seat 37D right next to you, and you'll be in 37E. But yeah, she's going to Chicago, so it's not going to be tomorrow. I think it's probably next week. Makes sense, right?
Yes, I think that would make the most sense. The word swirling around is the day after Selection Sunday, which will be a week from today. Right? Selection Sunday is.
We don't know that that's just on another Discord that I learned about a week ago.
That's the word. We don't have a definitive time. It has not been scheduled for us. It would make sense though, because if I'm LSU, does he have to stick around? Right? Like, I just cannot imagine.
No. He's got to. I mean, he's got to take this. He's got to be up here immediately. If he's down there sitting on the bench while Kim Mulkey coaches to the Final Four, mistakes were made, folks. I mean, come on. He's got to be up here. He will start immediately. I would be stunned if he didn't start immediately.
Right. And if he's going to start immediately and not pull a Chris Ash, then he should talk to us, soon, I would say, right? Yes. It's official today. I would have to imagine within the next week, at the most 2 weeks, we will hear from Gary Redus for the first time. And I imagine Kelly Zinn and President Tate will be at the presentation.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So we'll be there to, in the meantime, if anybody's got a cell number for Angel Reese, could you just send me the contact? Appreciate it.
before we move on, two things. First of all, your gut reaction, instant grade that you will have the liberty to change as developments happen, the staff is built and the roster is built, etc. What is your immediate gut reaction grade for this hire?
C+.
Yep, I think it's fair. That's probably
where it is. Yeah, it's not. It's certainly not an A. My concerns about what I discussed here beforehand. It could be B-. I might go there if you want me to. But I just think you could have hired an established head coach. I just think and there was no need to rush into this. So those are my two things. And I'm not saying I'm not saying it's going to be a bad hire. It's just if you asked my initial grade, that's what I give it. You're the same place?
I would be exactly the C+ because I see the upside and I see the concerns. I think those two things kind of balance each other out. It can go either way. And it could, I know we always talk about the extremes here. It could just kind of be bang average, right? You win,
of course,
6-7 games a year. Things kind of go okay, and you reevaluate after a few years. So we'll see. But yeah, I think C+ is right around there. I do want to go into potential assistant coaches. To your earlier point, we're not plugged into the women's hoop scene. I'm
about to say, you want to going in there alone. I'm climbing out of this space right now. That's it, Talia. You have it back. I'm just getting right out of here.
I can barely name the assistant coaching staff of the Rutgers women's team last year. I'm not going to dive into. I mean, again, to your point, I didn't know who Gary Redus was until last week when I'm building the hot board for the women's basketball coaching search. But there's one name that I think is very obvious, and I would be surprised if she is not on the staff. Her name is Manisha Redus. That might sound close to Gary Redus because it's his sister.
Yes.
She is an assistant coach at Florida Atlantic. She was previously the head coach at I had it up, apologies, Palm Beach Atlantic. And I think that's a Division II school. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it just makes too much sense. She's currently an assistant at FAU. Going to Rutgers would be a bump up. Reuniting with her brother would make sense.
Yeah.
And I guess the one thing I think is very important is that he must get an assistant coach with some sort of head coaching experience or high-level assistant experience to help guide him through exactly what you mentioned earlier, the pitfalls and the responsibilities of being a head coach of a women's basketball program. There's got to be some. Kim Mulkey got a guy. Her second in command is a long-time assistant coach. There's got to be some veteran, retired, or a former head coach who isn't doing anything that he's been connected with that can help serve as a mentor. I think it's really important to help him navigate this first-time experience.
100%, yeah. And I've heard that he's not doing that. That's the one rumor I did hear. So we'll see. That's just what's out there. The buzz out there is that, no, he's not doing that. So we'll find out. Don't know that for sure. And then we'll see what players he takes from LSU. I think this is going to move quickly. You would think the portal opens, I think, April 6th. I think we would have a pretty good idea where this is headed by the end of April, you'd think. So be kind of fascinating. Fun
yes, and I think there will be some trickling out of what players they're targeting and where things are going, which players are staying or not at Rutgers. Well, the interesting thing is that Rutgers will open for the portal 5 days from today because they just announced a new head coach. So Rutgers will have the Rutgers players will have an early entrance into the portal, whereas the LSU portal obviously will not open until the day after the national championship game. So in a way, there will be extended recruiting for Gary Redus, and he'll have a leg up because he'll know which players are staying or have a good idea. Because I would think, I don't know how accurate this is. I think 5 days from now, there will be a 15-day portal window open, right? That will then close. And then when the portal opens for everyone else, the Rutgers players will also still have the opportunity to enter the portal. So he will have to work twice as hard to retain players on his roster he wants to because of the nature of how this worked out. Yeah. But anyway, we'll have a good idea of where the roster stands, to your point, by the second week of April.
Yep. All right. Put a pin in that. Doop. We'll come back here. The women's basketball hot breaking news, Rutgers Rant. We'll be back here in a week, I guess, after the press conference. We'll talk more about this. Let's talk some men's basketball. You were at the game at Penn State, came out, punched Penn State in the face. If you want to know who the 14th best program in the Big Ten is right now, I think we have established it beyond a shadow of the doubt that Rutgers is that team. A nice win. Let's be honest. What you wanted to see from this team when things were going where they were going early on, and we were like, oh my God, ugh. I think now you're starting to see some young players develop. You certainly see an effort that was not matched by the opponent. They aren't always good, but they were really good in the first half against Penn State, taking shots at the rim. Your little shot charts. I know they hate that when you put that up there. Your little shot charts. It was a good looking shot chart. You can't put that up there and get angry about it. Mark, a couple of Tariq Francis again. Okay. Like this was a good win.
Yes, and to your point, they are officially the best of the worst. They are 6-0 against teams that finished below them in the standings, and 0-14 against teams that finished above them in the standings. Just perfect.
That's wild. Yeah.
The Are You Screw podcast called it the full Shiano. I wonder what you think about that.
The full Shiano. Well, yeah, that's a decent one. I'll give those guys credit. Tip my hat. It's not quite the Jerry Jones. Not quite as good as Cratch's Tate reference, but I'll give him a tip of the hat there.
We'll have to do a full deep dive on the Shiano's tenure at Rutgers to make sure how many times he's done a full Shiano. But I thought it was an interesting thought. The point is Rutgers clearly beat the teams below them without a doubt in the effort category. I mean, the first half against Penn State looked like they were there, forced against their will, like they were working a shift.
Hold up the newspaper, proof of life, Penn State. Yeah, it was bad. They were like, oh my gosh, when does this end? I think they thought if we lose this game, we don't have to go to Chicago. And they found out, wait, we're still going. Yeah, that was not good. Man, they stink.
You said in the Maryland first half when Rutgers was dominating, the Maryland was on the take. I think Penn State just did not care. I just think they were there. Playing out the string, and Rutgers really what was there to play. Rutgers, to Steve Pikiell's credit, had a lot of juice in these games against teams that they could beat, and they won in part because they cared more. And they played really well in the first half. To your point, got to the rim a ton. 11 of 12 at the rim in the first half, which is very impressive. Now in the second half, they were 5 of 15 at the rim, but the point being, they still got to the rim. Lino Mark has been the revelation of the back half of the season. The last month or so has been really good, gotten a lot better, is hitting threes, is getting to the rim, is playing hard defensively, is showing his speed off the dribble and how athletic he is. So he's climbed up my personal rankings of players we want to keep. We'll probably go through that exercise after the Big Ten tournament. I think it's probably not worth doing it with one game left.
Let's do it with him, though. Let's just do it with him. Where is he now? Is he number one on that list? Number two? Is he that high, or where is he?
The caveat again is always how much money does he want and what role does he want to play?
Right.
But I think you got to put him up one or two as far as a guy that you can bring back for relatively cheaply. I think part of the issue of him playing really well the last month is that
that's what I mean.
The price
that's
what
I mean. Yes.
But if you can get him
West Coast guy, I'd be worried about it. I'd be worried about that. I mean, a guy like Tariq Francis, his jerseys, I think he's going to stay for one more year. And I know that he talked about this, right? They asked, someone asked Lino about staying. I don't know if you were in that. I saw a quote someplace that was the topic.
I was not in that scrum, but he did say that he's hopeful everyone sticks around. This reminds me of when Gavin Griffiths told me he was staying at Rutgers, and a week later he left. And it's just you can never take what these guys say at this. I've learned this lesson the harsh way. You can't take what these guys say at this point in the season, because what else are they going to say? Yeah, I hope everyone else stays, but I think I'm gonna pack my bags and go back to California. I just don't think that's the case. That is part of the challenge, I think. But I think if you're Rutgers, you try decently hard to bring him back because he could be a really good backup point guard and play a big role next season. But if he's asking to be the starting guard and he wants $1 million, I think you say adios. Thank you for your first year here, but we'll pass. So but I do think that if you can keep him back at a reasonable price and reasonable role, I think you saw a lot from him in the last month that tells you he could be a foundational piece moving forward.
Right. And remember, this is an important thing to keep in mind. What we saw with football applies to basketball. And it'll be easier to keep your good players than to bring in good players at Rutgers. Like a guy who's here, a guy who knows Steve Pikiell, who likes him, who understands he's developing as a player. It's just easier than to say, well, yeah, I'm not going to Rutgers, like someone on the outside. And I think that's the KJ Duff thing. I think that's what you're going to see with guys here. You would think that this would be an advantage to them. I'm with you though. I don't know how much money you could have. He might be $1 million. He might be close to it. He might be high six figures. No, it's gonna be. Let's see.
Look, it's possible the market is inflated. It's every year.
Mid six figures, definitely, right?
Right, but that's like the bare minimum, right? Isn't that when
right.
for any player with a pulse, that's what you're paying? To me, $1 million player and again, I could my market valuations could be all wrong. Rob Sullivan has a much better idea of it than I do. I think $1 million player has to be, if not a starter, then your sixth man. Like you can't be.
Yes, agreed totally. And you think he's not a starter? You think he is a back? Even on we're not talking about the Big Ten championship team. We're talking about a Big Ten team that could make the bubble. Is he a starter on that team?
No, but I think he's a sixth, seventh, or eighth guy off the on the roster. I think. Now, here's what I would say. I don't think Rutgers has $1 million player on its roster. I don't think so.
No.
And I don't think they should pay $1 million to anyone on this roster. I just don't.
But they're going to.
They might. I don't. And I think obviously the candidate to get that is Tariq Francis because of his scoring and how important he's been to this team. I think. And look, I like Tariq Francis. I think he could be a big piece on a good team. I'm not.
Yeah.
I want to be clear when I say this. I don't think he's been. I think he's been better than any of us expected. You cannot pay him $1 million and be a successful team. You just can't, unless you are a team that has a huge bankroll. And $1 million.
About to say you're spending $10 million. You can't spend one on your leading scorer.
Because you have to spend $2 or $3 million on your top player and $2 million on your second best player, right? Like
you're gonna have to spend 2 to 3 on a center. Have to. They can't do this again. And I get it. Emmanuel Bole got one more year of eligibility. I think you could probably bring him back as a backup. I think your head would explode. I think he's developed a little bit, but you just have to get a center, and it's just I don't know what overpaying. This is it. I mean, you just can't do this again. That's number one to me.
Let's stick on the Obole thing. He's a nice guy. I have nothing personally against Emmanuel Obole. So what I'm about to say here is nothing personal against the guy.
It's always a bad preference when someone says that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Nothing personal, but
it's okay. The reaction to the news that he will consider he will appeal for another year of eligibility and potentially come back next year. And obviously, with him having another year, Rutgers could be a landing spot for him. The reaction I've seen from people saying, "Oh, I would take Manny back as a backup in a heartbeat," like the overwhelming reaction that people want him back as a backup is mind-boggling to me. Have people not been watching this season? Have they not been watching the last 3 years? Well, you just said it right now. My head almost exploded.
12 minutes? You're not going to give him. If you have an established, you have a good. I can give you some names in the Big Ten. If you have a good Big Ten center, you mean to tell me you can't win with a Manny Obole playing 12 minutes a game?
Only if Steve Peichel is dedicated on going back to caveman basketball to the peak of his tenure and focusing 95% on defense and winning games 50-45. Because Manny's defensive numbers are actually not that bad. He is
right.
He's 15th nationally in offensive rebounding rate, 54th nationally in defensive rebounding rate, 72nd nationally in block rate. So he does have good defensive numbers. He fouls a ton, but to your point, if he's playing 10 minutes a game, that's not a bad issue necessarily. The issue is, to me, on the other end, you are playing 4-on-5. They will not pass him the ball. They just do not pass him the ball. I can imagine it's maddening for him, but I don't blame them because you're throwing the ball into a black hole. I mean, I showed you the screen grab from the last game against Michigan State on a pick and roll.
Turnover. Yeah,
he's wide open and it's a turnover, and he can't grab the ball. He can't put it back. He misses point blank layups. Anything other than a dunk is, you're playing Russian roulette. So that to me is the issue. I think the defeatist attitude that, you know what you get from him. He's a solid backup center, and it'd be hard to get a backup center to his level. I disagree entirely. There's got to be some guy out there that you can get for cheap that could play backup center that's better than Emmanuel Obole. I'm sorry. It blows my mind. I had to get this off my chest because it's been burning a hole in my chest the whole weekend. I cannot believe people are just so. Like, what are we doing? Have people been watching the games? I just can't. I don't believe it anymore. I don't. Are people sitting at the rack on their phones the whole game?
That's great. I love it. I did not know this was the button I would be touching to set you off this morning. It's exciting. That's good. If I'd known, I would have done it sooner. All right. Point well taken, I guess.
Listen, make your case in the comments. I'm willing to hear all of you out. Literally. And I will hear analytical. I will hear actual numbers. I will hear reasoning. Show me a play. Give me something. Don't just spew this. Oh, he's getting better. Don't. Please, if you want to make your case in the comments, Give me facts. Because a
Right.
5-minute spurt when he turned into God against Michigan State when the game was over is not justification enough.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm just saying this because, again, nothing against the guy. If I have to watch Emmanuel Bolle in a Rutgers uniform for a 4th year, I just don't know if I can do it. I just don't know if I can.
Yeah. I'd be fascinating. And he was non-committal, to be clear. He wasn't sure he's going to use. He wasn't sure he's going to get the year. He'll get the year, I think. Everyone gets a year. He's not sure he's going to use it, and he's not sure he's going to use it here. So he didn't give any insights to that based on what he said after the game. Steve Peichel had a quote about this, though. This was great. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're in this press conference, you think it's just Steve Peichel saying the same stuff he says all the time. No! This quote from Steve Peichel: "You guys don't know the world I live in. Donald Trump's trying to solve our problems now during the middle of a war. So that kind of explains where we are." Yeah, there you go. He's right. He's right. And if you're not paying attention, Rutgers came up in Washington during the Save Our College Sports Summit, which seemed to actually, based on what I've read, did do more harm than good. It's certainly not going to save college sports in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, Rutgers came up because he was rattling off the figures that schools had lost. He inflated how much money Rutgers lost and mentioned it. It's a funny little clip that we have on NJ.com if you want to read it. But yeah, so Steve Peichel dropping Trump into the chat. How about that?
Yes, and then I posted it on Twitter, and it went a little viral, and I overestimated the average IQ of the average Twitter user, and I underestimated how sensitive people are when the words Donald Trump are brought into any conversation, and I overestimated how much context people had, right? So people, I think the vast majority of people in my replies, I muted the tweet 12 hours ago, so I don't know what's happening. But people seem to think that he's blaming their bad season on Donald Trump for whatever reason. People are think, they're calling him many insulting words, liberal, many insulting words in the comments. And there are a few smart cookies who understand that he is saying, the context of this quote is about Emmanuel Bolle saying, the difficulties of the NIL era of raising money of the transfer portal, and to put some emphasis on how hard that world is. He's saying the president of the United States, in the middle of a bombing campaign against Iran, is trying to solve that issue. That's how much of a shit show it is. Excuse me, pardon my French. That is the context. But these people who can't see 5 feet in front of their face are so eager to defend the president. And
did you see the reaction to my tweet about this? It was great, hilarious. Same thing. Because I retweeted the hilarious headline that former Rutgers athletic director will be at the thing, and I put a comment like, when I saw the headline, that's not who I was hoping for. Obviously, just a funny little ha-ha. And then people could decide which former Rutgers athletic director I would most like to see testifying in Washington. and it's funny. It's not Jerry Herman. It's not Fred Gruninger, actually, was who I wanted to see. I'm kidding. Obviously, any of them would be fine. But people flipped out to that, and I had to block people because not because you're spewing, politics at me. I'm blocking you because you don't get the joke. That's my bar. If you don't get my joke, I don't want you. I don't want to interact with you at X. Gotta get the joke, man. Come on.
Yes, and the issue is like the nobody can take this in jest. Like, this stuff is so serious to so many people. Like, the white knighting is insane. I mean, it is.
Yep.
I knew it, right? Obviously, I'm on Twitter all the time. I'm addicted, like all of us, and I see all this nonsense, and I understand it. But my God, I was just shocked at how quickly people rose up to oh my God, how dare Steve Peichel defend the attack the president. I got the clip up if you want to see it of Donald Trump talking about.
Do you have that clip? You can put it on the thing. Wow.
Let's see.
Many are going to go down the tubes. It was announced that Penn State, their athletic division, lost $535 million this last year.
Wrong.
Florida State, Ron and I spoke about it, $440 million loss. It was just announced that Rutgers lost $95 million, and they're doing all sorts of things to try and save the ship. And I think those numbers are nothing compared to what's going to happen.
The good news and bad news. The bad news, he's over that. He's shot over that by 17 million. The good news is, I think they're saving the ship, though. He thinks, that's good news.
I guess I think next time someone wants to crush NJ.com for reporting the numbers. At least we report them accurately. And I guess
Come on, Mr. President, put the link in your chat here. Come on, give us some page views. Kidding.
That'd be nice. Half of the Rutgers fan base will maybe take our side now because the president is also trashing the Rutgers spending. And I do, I guess while we're here, I do have the clip of Steve Peichel talking about Donald Trump. So I'll put this for context's sake.
His degree, he's just been awesome to coach. I appreciate him. He stayed here. Like, you guys don't understand the world I live in. You know, like Donald Trump's trying to solve our problems now. You know, like, you know, during the middle of a war. So, like, that kind of explains where we are.
Yeah, my biggest problem with that, Brian, is that I fully understand the world you live in. There's no one who doesn't understand the world you live in. We know the world. We read, we see, we get it. It's like, no, we understand, Steve. You've told us 1,000,000 times. I'm just tired of that part of it. Like, it's what, you know, oh, wait a minute. They're paying players now? Like, what does he think we understand this? I mean,
yes.
Right?
Yes,
I mean, isn't there a certain point? We're not dopes.
Yes, he's playing the greatest hits with a little sprinkle of Donald Trump to change things up a little bit. But yes, it's the greatest hits. Every other coach in America is dealing with the same world, and some of them are vastly more successful than them. I agree. But the other thing people were saying in my tweets were that the reporters were laughing. How dare the reporters laughing? We should have gotten the mic and said, "Hey, Steve Peichel, lay off, Mr. President." Maybe next time we'll do that. But anyway, yes,
that's great.
I think again, this is just a little spicier version of the same thing. Also, again, and not to I've disparaged Emmanuel Bully enough. Steve Peichel saying he stayed as though, you know, he had a billion options. There were, you know, Michigan State was barreling down his door begging him to come to Michigan State. He stayed because it was better for him to stay. Right? Like,
yes.
Let's also not be disingenuous in that as well.
Right, of course. All right. So one thing I do want to address on here, because I think there is, in some corners, like a lot of corners of the Rutgers fan base, in some corners of the Rutgers fan base, there is a sense that this team has exceeded expectations. So I went back, and this is good. I went back and I listened to our preview edition of the Rutgers Rant. When we were going down, we did Mike and the Mad Dog. We went win by win. This was really good podcasting here, you know. If you listen to it, I mean, really, you are a dedicated person. It was like an hour and 10 minutes of this. No, it was long too. And this is what we did. This is what our predictions were. I had them at 13-19 and losing in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. Which, if they lose in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, is their record. But I was wrong on one side. I thought they would win 5 Big Ten games. You were exactly correct at 6-14 in the Big Ten, but you had them at 15-18. You thought they were going to, I guess, I don't know, beat Central Connecticut State. I don't know what exactly were your 15th win. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but yeah, and you thought they were going to go to Chicago and win a game. So for expectation-wise, they've actually met my expectations. You were more optimistic at this point than they actually were. So there you go.
Yeah, a couple things. I probably thought they would win one more non-conference game than they did, obviously, so I didn't foresee the Central Connecticut State. I, for some reason, did my math wrong, right? I assumed for some reason they would have 5 Big Ten wins or 6 Big Ten wins and still play in the first day of the tournament, right? That's why I thought they would win a Big Ten tournament game because they'd play.
That's not your math. I mean, that could have happened.
Yes, if Northwestern had won a couple more games, then yes, fair. Now, yeah, I think we're spot on. Now, the thing that they will say that they exceeded expectations, which in fairness to them is true, they were picked by literally everyone, including myself, to finish 17th in the Big Ten. And they'll finish tied for they finished solo 14th. Now, is that exceeding expectations? Yes, by definition. But isn't it an issue that the expectations were so low that you would finish 17th, and that's an issue in and of itself? And B, I don't know if you saw Texas A&M. They had a graphic on their Twitter, predicted 13th in the SEC, finished tied for 4th, and everyone was dogging them like, is this really worth a graphic? And that's kind of my same sentiment. is it really worth bragging about finishing higher than expectations because you finished 14th?
Yeah,
It's the 17th, right? So
The one thing that did happen, I will say, that I thought had to happen this year has kind of happened. Like you wanted to identify a couple players a few players you could bring back. Like you had to get through this year where you had to, here's the core, here are the guys we are going to keep on this team. And I think maybe they have. Now they got to keep them. They've got to, that's the one thing that we talked about at length in that show as well. So it wasn't just about where you're going to finish. That was an important piece of that.
right, but the results of that will be determined in April.
Yes.
Right, it's one thing to identify the players; it's another thing to
Anyone
to
can
keep them.
identify
Right.
the players. Yes.
Last year, I identified that Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey were players you'd want to keep for a second year, but they quickly went to the NBA. So I think, in all seriousness, I agree that there are, and again, we'll go through this after the Big Ten tournament, but there are 3 to 4 players that I think you really should try to keep. And if they keep, some are easier than others. If you keep 3 of them, I think you're in a decent spot. But as I've said ad nauseum this season, if you lose every single player on this roster, which I don't think will happen, I just don't think it's that big of a deal. Now, the Tariq Francis thing, he will stay almost certainly because Brandon Knight will stay almost certainly. Something to watch this week. The Pitt job is almost certainly going to open up. Friend of the show, Brett McConnell, former Princeton assistant, now an assistant at Stanford, could end Pitt's season tomorrow. They play in the first round of the ACC tournament. So the Pitt job could open up as soon as tomorrow, Wednesday, whatever.
Yeah.
Brandon Knight will be thrown around as a name, as a candidate. He was obviously one of the greatest players in program history, longtime assistant at Rutgers. From when you leave the Rutgers bubble, like our beat, how we follow this stuff closely, you will see him labeled as a coach that brought Ace and Dylan to Rutgers and is a sharp recruiter. And there are a lot of things to pitch him as a candidate. I don't think Pitt will hire him. I think it'd be too much of a risk, right? And I think they would only really hire him if, they're in a situation like Rutgers where you can't get an established coach and you need to get an up and coming guy. I think he would be very much in the Gary Redus role. But anyway, the point being, if for some reason, some miraculous reason, he ends up being the head coach of his alma mater, I think it would be 1,000% guaranteed Tariq Francis would follow him. Tariq Francis is from Pittsburgh. He grew up in Pittsburgh. He idolized Pittsburgh because he watched Brandon Knight play at Pittsburgh as a kid. Or I shouldn't say that. I think he was too young to watch him play. But the point being, he watched him coach at Pittsburgh, is what I should say. So that would be the only reason I would be worried about Tariq Francis leaving. Otherwise, or maybe another team throws a gigantic bag at him to be their leading scorer, which in theory, I guess is possible, is highly unlikely. Other than those 2 scenarios, I expect Tariq Francis to be back next year and being the building block, the foundational piece for next year's team.
Yeah. And let's talk about that quickly because I think that would be the absolute best case scenario for Rutgers, right? It would solve a big problem. I think that Rutgers should be rooting for Pitt to hire Brandon Knight to open up a space on this staff. Absolutely. He would probably take Smoke with him to and if you lose Tariq for that, I don't know. I think that is, in your story, it was a very small little mention that it is Brandon Knight's offense that we've been watching. And that was like in your big story about the offensive issues at Rutgers. I think that Steve Peichel has to make a staff change. We had Kelly Zinn on this show, and she didn't say that. Like it was something like she didn't come out and say he's got to make a staff change, but she said, "Look, coaches need to do this, or they need to be the ones who put themselves in the best position to win." She had a great answer about that. I think it's pretty clear that there's going to be changes on that staff, and if that is a promotion, if a guy leaves to go to a head coaching job in the ACC, then that solves a problem. I would absolutely, yeah.
It makes it a tough decision that Steve Peichel probably doesn't want to make for him, right?
Yes, indeed, exactly.
I don't think Steve Peichel will move Brandon Knight, right? 1, it's not feasible given his contract, and 2, I think Tariq Francis' connection and Brandon Knight's entrenchment in the program just doesn't make it feasible. The only way Brandon Knight leaves is because he gets the Pitt job, right? Now, Steve Peichel, the rest of his assistants are on 1-year deals. He doesn't have to fire anyone technically. He just doesn't have to bring some people back. But right. I agree, given the track record over the 10 years, he doesn't really do that, right? The only guys that have left for other jobs. he hasn't really fired guys. Carl Hobbs is back on the market because Georgia Tech fired its head coach. I don't anticipate Coach Hobbs coming back. Just throwing that one out there.
Yeah.
But yes, I would agree. As unlikely as it is, it would solve a problem for Rutgers. And the Tariq Francis thing, I don't know if it would solve a problem per se, but the Tariq Francis situation next year will be interesting because I don't think he could be the guy with the ball in his hands all the time like he is this year for Rutgers to be successful. I think he has to be your microwave scorer off the bench, a guy that adds a scoring dimension and changes things up. I just don't think you could be successful with him playing with this much volume, this much usage as he did this year. There's a reason why he's had this much usage for 3 years in college. And while he's been a prominent scorer, the teams have not had much success. It's just not really a system style play that leads to much success. So I think that if he does come back, which again would take a lot of circumstances for him not to come back, he has to have a smaller role and take less shots, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into this. We're going to do a lot of the breakdowns, like I said, after the Big Ten tournament. But we had a couple questions about this, and I think it's a good transition here. In the Discord, please join the Discord if you haven't already. Question: over under 1.5 men's basketball assistant coaching staff changes. That's a good number. Where are you putting it at? If you had to go over that or under that?
That's tough. I would go. I'll go over. What do you say?
The same way you are. Yes, I'm going to go that it would be. I think 2 is probably where we're headed. Yeah, I would go over 2.
Let's game this out. Right. So, I don't see any of these coaches leaving for head coaching jobs. Right. Again, other than Brandon Knight, the possibly exterminating circumstances or whatever the word is. It's not exterminating, but whatever.
Extenuating. A completely different way to change the staff, Brian. I don't think we had to get to that point. Come on.
No one is advocating for that, to be clear.
No one's advocating exterminating circumstances.
Now, the other option is obviously you let him go. I think Steve Peichel will really want to keep Brandon Knight and Jay Young, right? I think those guys are must keeps for Steve Peichel. Clearly, they're and I just don't think Jay Young is at a point where he can get another head coaching job. He's gonna have to probably be a couple years removed from the Fairfield debacle. So yes. I could see them moving on from Marlon Williamson, right? He's been here for 3 years. I think it's probably time for that. TJ Thompson has been around for a while. I think Steve Peichel has been really loyal to him, and I would be surprised if he's not here anymore. But I'm just kind of going through candidates of people that could maybe leave. That's why this 1.5 number is so hard because, well, I think there are staff changes that must and will happen. I don't know ultimately who Steve Peichel will move on from because he is loyal to so many of these guys.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, I mean, but I do think something's got to happen. 1.5 seems like the right number if you could put it on. Over under 2.5 returners from this year's freshman class. I know we're going to talk about it at next episode. That's the right number there, too. It's great. This is a good odds. Discord question asker. What do you think? So you're saying who, not who wants to come back, who they want to come back. Ultimately, when the next year's roster comes out, there are 2.5 over/under freshmen from this year, and there's 7 of them, right? Because we count the internationals. Right.
I will say under. I'll go under.
Wow, really? Huh? So who are the 2? You just don't. There's no way to know. If Lena wants to come back, if they can pay him 1.
Right. I think if you work backwards, there are players that almost certainly will not be back. Javante Ware probably isn't coming back. He hasn't played. They don't have anyone with a pulse at center, and he's not played a single minute basically since November. So Javante Ware, there's no way he's coming back. The writing's on the wall there. Mm-hmm. Dennis Battlehouse, I think his experiment is over, right? Mm-hmm. I think Harun Zerno will be back. I really see no reason why he wouldn't be back, but maybe he finds that he prefers a smaller, a bigger role in a smaller team, needs to go down a level. I could see that.
He might want to get paid more. He could get paid someplace else. So we have to see. That's it. I mean, he could get paid someplace else in Europe professionally. Like he's already played that. So
that would make sense, right? There's part of that wanting to get back home. Maybe the college basketball experiment hasn't been all it's shaped out to be. We don't know, right? There are many reasons. Yeah. Chris Mooley has played a smaller role than expected. Played a little bit yesterday, and he's from the West Coast. He went to 4 high schools in 4 years.
Oh boy,
he's a transient kind of guy. I can see that. Lino Mark is playing really well. He's from the West Coast. He's a guy that would I would not be surprised if he, wants to. It's always a risk when you get guys from the other side of the country and they're hot, so he can maybe want to strike while the iron is hot and get some money in the portal. Caden Powers, again, another guy from Washington State, other side of the country. I could see that.
They would want both those guys to come. Rutgers would want both those guys to come back. Woolley and Powers, 100%.
Lino and Caden, I think, are probably priorities 1 and 2.
Right.
Woolley, I think they would like
Woolley too. Yeah, he's got potential. They like him, I think. Even if he hasn't played a lot. He's gotten better, and seems to have gotten better later in the year. Yeah, he's got.
This is my personal opinion. I think he's 2 years away. Like, I don't think he'll make much of an impact next year. I think he'd be a guy as a junior at the very least. But so I guess 2.5. Yeah. I just the way college sports is right now, and I just think 2 is probably the right number. I don't know which 2, but that sounds right to me. It sounds like you're going over.
Yeah, I'm going to go over about 3. I think it'd probably be 3, and I just don't know that all of these guys have a better place. I think they're going to, there's going to be seats on the bench here, right? Like it's like Rutgers is not going to get 8 new guys in the portal. We've seen that, so I think there's going to be space. I'm going to go 3. Yeah.
Because if you keep 3 freshmen and you keep Tariq Francis and you keep Darren Buchanan, that's 5 guys.
Right. Yep.
And these 5 guys aren't coming back all to play 5 minutes a game, right? So if you're doing that, the more guys you're bringing back, the more you're bringing back the same roster, right? So you got to calculate all that as well. And you got to calculate which of these guys Rutgers wants back as well. So I don't know. It'll be a fascinating year.
Right. All right. One last question because we're already almost at an hour. What happened to the case of the missing one-piece cards? I love it. They just dropped it. I forgot all about that. We did a whole podcast on that, Brian. Emergency edition. We didn't solve that crime. It is still unsolved. Man.
I will not comment on an ongoing investigation.
No.
No, I don't know. I don't know. And I do feel that I hope that person that took advantage and put them on eBay because the price of those things has fallen.
Has it? Has it dropped? What a surprise. Never saw that coming.
Yeah. So
if you had if you had grabbed $100 from someone, did you make a good job in the bathroom at the rack? As you're standing at the urinal, if someone offered you $150 for that card, you did okay.
I think so. One, because cold hard cash is better and non-speculative. Right now, I'm looking at them. Looks like they're hovering around 150, 200. Okay. There's still some 400s, but as opposed to the beginning where they were all 400s, some 800s.
Gotcha.
Some people might not have gotten the return they were hoping for. But we will update you as soon as we get a break in that case. Believe me, we're keeping vigilant.
All right. Final thought on this now. Gun to your head. Will Rutgers beat Minnesota? Would they come out of Chicago with a win, or is that a bad matchup? We saw how badly that game went in Minneapolis last time they played out there.
The thing with Minnesota is every time I see them, I say they have 5 to 6 guys. They got to get exhausted eventually. There's no way they can keep this up. I was almost right watching Northwestern because they went up 15 early. They got tired towards the end. Northwestern fought back, but then Minnesota won. They just keep coming back from the dead. They just keep winning. They run elite stuff offensively. They have a lot of shooters. I just think Rutgers can't keep up with them offensively. And even if Rutgers presses from the very beginning, I saw a lot of fans say, just press them. Just try really hard and tire them out. And I think that's not a bad strategy. I just think Minnesota is more talented, better coached offensively, certainly. And in a tournament-style competition, I think they could make some noise. So I think Rutgers loses to Minnesota. Maybe not as handily as they did in Minneapolis, but I just don't think it'll be much of a sweat for the Gophers.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm going to go with a loss too, just because why would I back off my preseason prediction of 13-19 when I'm this close to it? So I'm going to stick with it.
I have one quick thing before we go. I don't know if you saw my story this morning, but I went to Philadelphia to watch Derek Simpson play his last home game of his senior season at St. Joseph's, having a big year. He is playing something like 86% of his team's minutes and has helped St. Joe's finish 3rd in the Atlantic 10. They're 21 wins. This is a team that their coach left in September to be an assistant coach at the Knicks, and Derek Simpson is a major reason why they're the surprise of the Atlantic 10. He might get first-team all-conference honors, and he looks good. The ball's in his hands, which he is really appreciative of. That's something he's always wanted, and he's really taking advantage, spraying the ball to his teammates, commanding the offense. Was really impressed watching him and was really impressed talking to him afterwards. A really mature kid as a senior. Really reflective. Said he doesn't really speak to many people at Rutgers outside of TJ Thompson because all of his teammates from when he was there are gone.
Yeah.
Hence is the nature. And I went through the list of other former Rutgers players. Just a couple quick ones I want to mention. Antoine Woolfolk, backup center here at Rutgers, starter and prominent player on the story in college basketball, the 31-0 Miami of Ohio Red Hawks.
Wild.
Incredible. I watched a couple of games, and there was one last week. I can't remember the opponent for the life of me, but he had a layup in the last second when things were getting dicey. They run some interesting stuff, man. Like, it's really, really fun to watch them play. And I think it would be a travesty, because I just know they're going to lose in the conference tournament, because that's just the way it's going to go. Akron might be the better team in the MAC, if we're being honest. They might beat them. And if they lose in the conference tournament and they don't get an at-large bid, they should end this process. And they should, if they're going to expand the tournament, like we know they're going to, because they're greedy and they want more money, and they're going to ruin a perfect product even further for the money. If they're going to do that, we must give regular season champions the automatic bid. And if you want to give the tournament champions the automatic bid as well, that's fine by me. But you have to reward teams for winning the regular season, because you can't have a magic 3 months, dominate your league, and then you have one bad day in March, and your season's over. Did you see what happened in Navy?
They did, yeah. Yeah, it's rough.
17-1 or 17-3. I think 17-1 in the Patriot League. Ran through that league. And then you get one buzzer-beating miracle, and your season's over. That's nonsense.
It's college basketball. Enough. That's the whole point. This is what makes it great. You're railing about, so you say you like this stuff, and then you're like, this can't happen. It's the whole point. It's what makes it fun.
I guess, but it also devalues the entire regular season.
It's college basketball.
But if I'm a fan of any team in a one-bid league, why on earth would I watch Navy Lafayette in January?
Yes.
Okay, I won the Patriot League. Whoop-de-doo. Put up the banner. I'm not playing in March Madness because I had one bad game against BU and the season's over. I think it's nonsense.
The problem is the thing that this year is confirming, and we're on this topic, is that the bubble is so bad that expanding it that's the reason not to expand it. It's just you're inviting in a bunch of teams that no one thinks should be in the first place. It's like that to me is what they expand after this year. Looking at what I followed Seton Hall. Yeah, they probably they're just a couple wins away, but these are teams that do not belong in the NCAA tournament. Man, that's the
my
problem.
point. If you're going to expand it, give it to worthy teams that win their league, and give more chances for Cinderellas, right? It'd be much more exciting if Navy made a run than if Seton Hall got in and miraculously made it to the Elite.
You must have missed the part about every single decision being made by power conferences to their benefit. You must have missed that memo.
Yes. And for money, because you're not going to make more money making the regular season more valuable. You make more money making a tournament that people will watch in March. Whatever. The day that I am college sports czar, I will fix this.
The day you're in Washington, sitting there testifying in front of Donald J. Trump. I love it. All right. Can we end on that? Let's end on that. Thanks for joining us. The Women's Basketball Breaking News Podcast. Signing off. We'll be back after that press conference. Will be soon. We certainly will be back after the Big Ten tournament to break down the season for the Rutgers men's team. Gary Redus II. Look forward to meeting you. Thanks for listening. And thanks to the Heldridge.
The best hotel in downtown New Brunswick.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant, sponsored by the Heldridge Hotel. Head to nj.com/Rutgers for more Scarlet Knight content.